Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Vitality Secret Podcast. I'm here with Kambo practitioner, Austin Romero, and I'm delighted to have him here today because we're going to be talking about quite a hot topic these days. And I sat a Kambo ceremony here about a month ago, and a lot of you have been asking me questions, and I thought I'd bring on the man himself. So, Austin, thank you so much for affording us your time and for being on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Neil. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, really excited to hear about what you're about to reveal. Before we go into what Kambo does, can you just give us a little bit of a background about how you got into this and your training?
Yeah, of course. So I got into serving the Kambo medicine, obviously after experiencing it for the first time a little over 2 years ago now, in a place just by Glastonbury in the UK. I was fortunate enough to have my session sitting on a ley line for the tour, really beautiful scenic area, sitting in an ancient flower meadow actually. I'd heard about the medicine, several times in my circles. I've been abroad drinking the sacred medicine ayahuasca, and it just came into my field so many times, and to the point that I gravitated towards doing a session for the first time. It became very clear for the results that it brought in my life, that I really wanted to share that with people, to bring it to more people than just myself. And so shortly after my first session, I sold everything I owned and made my way on budget flights and cheap accommodation to Peru to do the training in the Amazon. Did the training in the Amazon just outside of Quitos. People come and go. And there we were staying with the organisation called Kambo Naturista. They facilitated the training, and in the time that we were there, we actually had a father and son visit us from the Matses tribe to share with us the heritage and the culture and all of the native traditions surrounding their use of Kambo. So yeah, there's a little bit about how I got into it. I started serving it shortly after then in October 2017.
Right, amazing. So now's a good time to ask what it is. I think I'd love to give a bit of my own experience with it, but before I do that, I'd like to ask you what it is and what does it do?
Yeah, so Kambo is just one of the names given to the secretion which comes from the Philomedusa bicolor. That's the Latin name for the tree frog. It's also called the giant waxy monkey tree frog. It's a bright green, luminous green frog with a kind of tan yellowish underbelly. The frogs leg to leg can be about that big. They're quite big creatures. They have no natural predators either. So the medicine that we're using, the Kambo medicine, is the secretion from the skin of this frog, and it's a peptide packed cocktail of everything in it is bioactive, bioavailable for human DNA or mammalian DNA. So you've got peptides in there which activate the gallbladder juices, start the cleansing process in the liver, balancing the endocrine system. Obviously, the main purpose of it is cleaning out the lymphatic system. And then it works more deep and more intrinsically on neurological things like addictions, depression, anxiety, traumas, grievances. The spectrum is so big. We could talk a whole day on just things that Kambo can do for people. But what it is that secretion from the frog. The way it's applied is through small burns to the skin. Just very light burns. I'm using either vine or 100% pure organic incense to achieve these burns. They're usually ranging between 2 millimeters diameter and 5 millimeters diameter. That exposes the subcutaneous layer of skin, which is ultimately the lymphatic system. And the medicine is placed onto those bare areas of skin. It filters into the body, through the lymphatic system, into the bloodstream, which invokes the process of the body going into this natural reboot cycle, kind of like, downloading some new software for the computer or taking the car for a service. It's a spiritual, mental, physical MOT for the body. The usual outcome of a session is purge. You typically drink 2 liters of water, prior to receiving your medicine through the burns that we call gates. And the body rejects all of its toxins from the organs, the deep tissue, the muscle fibers, everything, into the stomach. And the body's natural reflex to that is to get stronger. And so the body rejects all of that stuff, that purge, that water. And then after the purge, which is what I call the fire phase, the body's getting deep into its reboot cycle. It's kind of like having a short-lived fever. Once you've gone through that, you've had your purge, you then come to the other side, which I call the water phase of deep tranquility and relaxation. So our thoughts start to align and realizations start to come in. And this process, the water phase, is lasting for days, weeks, or even months. When I give a session, we follow up with clients on a regular basis for integration, nutritional support, and follow to Kambo sessions if needed to just keep that feeling rolling, because I like to believe that feeling is our true unencumbered self, our true infinitely limitless self, the full strength, the clarity of self and mind. So yeah, that's a bit of it.
That's that last point you just said is I can so resonate with, because when I did it with you, whenever it was, about a month ago, that the next day I felt such clarity. I felt like this veil had been kind of lifted off my brain. And prior to that, I was feeling, I can only describe it like a bit of a cloud and a bit of haziness and a bit of kind of, I'd reached a bit of a plateau in certain areas, and I really felt so energized. And I think even in one of the descriptions, it talks about how it can just raise your energy and remove the filters, this kind of thing. And that's how I felt on an energetic level. And I did it for an energy reason, an energetic reason, rather than for my immune system. And it really felt quite amazing. And for that week, I felt like I was on fire. It's amazing. I mean, the actual experience itself for me was interesting. I think you gave me a few extra dots than is normal, because my body, I felt it go in me very, very quickly, but I wasn't purging for some reason. So I think we did more than the average. But it was, once I'd purged, it just felt really quite amazing. And what you said about, feeling yourself in that limitless kind of potential and clarity, that's how I felt during the purge. Well, probably after the purge, actually, and certainly the next day and beyond. So that was very interesting. From a kind of a health perspective, what kind of conditions is this useful for? Can you? I mean, I guess you're gonna say everything, but I'd love to.
I mean, as I said, we could talk all day, just listing things that Kambo's been good for. I mean, myself and the team of healers and practitioners that I work alongside, we've probably served just under 1,000 people, all told, with Kambo. So there's so many things, There's I've seen reversal of autoimmune conditions. I've seen people, getting really good results for hepatitis, and then I've seen people getting all clear results, when they're doing like detox from narcotic substances. So many viral things, because basically viruses, parasites, toxins, they're just guests in our body without our consent. And the Kambo basically brings the body back into its full strength and goes, well, that's not serving my highest good. That's not serving my truest vitality. The body loves you unconditionally. The body wants you to be this thriving creature. So any illness in there is going to make its way out, or make its way. Another thing that Kambo does is described as the truth revealer. So it will give you, through the clarity, it will say, hey, don't eat that thing the next day, or hey, don't smoke that cigarette, or hey, don't get yourself all worked up like that. It will give you these things to support the journey of integration afterwards.
That's really interesting what you just said. Actually, it helps you become truer. It's almost revealing the true expression of yourself. the veil's been lifted. It's almost like the conditioning that we've gone through for our whole lives, whatever we've been susceptible to, which is basically life. These rationalizations, how we talk to ourselves and how we convince ourselves into taking action, and how it's amazing how much we rationalize, or maybe I'll be clearer, how much I rationalize about, various things. And that following week, everything just got clearer in a big way. Amazing what you said about the different kinds of illnesses, because this is everything, isn't it? And I love what you said about the body. What was your word? The body
loves us.
Loves us, yes. So I see the body as this incredibly powerful self-healing mechanism. It's this remarkably intelligent self-healing machine.
Yeah.
And when we understand that these foreign invaders, I love how you said the viruses are there, but they're just unwelcome. They're guests that are unwelcome. They're unwelcome guests. So how do we kind of cleanse the body? How do we strengthen the immune system so the virus passes or the bacteria passes? Because it works with viruses. It can work with bacteria. I saw in one of the descriptions for Kambo that it can be a very powerful antibiotic.
Yes.
So, if we go to the doctors and we take a medicine, medication, should I say, sorry. I see a big difference between medicine and medication. Medicine helps the body to heal. Medication masks symptoms, typically. So we can go and take a medication called an antibiotic, and it will just destroy all of your gut bacteria, the good and the bad. And it can take up to a year for your body to repair from one course of antibiotics.
Yeah.
And which is basically your immune system as well, because 70 to 80% of the immune system is in the gut. So with this, you're actually, it's like a natural antibiotic, isn't it? So you can and it strengthens the immune system. So you're supporting your gut in various ways, aren't you?
Yeah.
Fair to say?
Definitely. Kambo is amazing. We talk a bit about the gut there. I'll just drop in some information from a doctor called Anthony Williams. He's a psychic doctor, medical medium, and he talks about antibiotics, how they burn the micro hairs off the gut lining, off the intestines, and with those hairs perfectly intact, newborn children have them until they're given their first prescription of antibiotics. Those small hairs contain the really good gut flora and fauna, the good fauna and flora of the gut, which is just maintaining a good stasis of gut bacteria. So we do the antibiotics, it burns those hairs off, and then the good gut bacteria has got nowhere to live. And so then you're more susceptible through your life, because 78% of your immune system in the gut is then compromised, and we're more susceptible to getting sick. One of the things Kambo does, because it's working on all the organs, specifically the gallbladder, the stomach, the liver, the spleen, the pancreas, all those things that produce the digestive enzymes and all the lovely lubricants for the body, it's rebalancing that gut fauna and flora. And there's this piece of, I'm going to call it pseudo information, because I've got no I've got no written stuff here to back it up, but there's this theory that when bad gut bacteria gets wiped out, then this carcass of dead bacteria, bad bacteria, it gets fed to the good gut bacteria. It gets fed to the gut bacteria, and then of course increasing the vitality of that good gut bacteria. I've noticed this myself, having a really deep digestive reset. My cycles, I don't know what you'd call that. Cycle trips to the toilet.
Not your moon cycle.
No. It's been more in tune with the body. It's been more
regular.
Yeah, we'll probably edit that a little bit.
We could talk about it. It's an important part of it, isn't it? Because
of course,
people don't talk about it because it's almost like taboo. But it's really good to talk about, actually, because it's a very we're humans. We need to pass. Sometimes I think it's normal to pass like once a day, but I also hear that 3 times a day is actually healthier. Because you're constantly eliminating, nasty stuff, and this kind of treatment helps to bring that back into that regularity. And Otherwise, toxins can build up in the colon. Toxins can build up, in various places. And Kambo appears to be something that really helps with that. I really like what you just said, what medical medium says, because it's so interesting, because young children are often put on antibiotics very, very quickly. They'll get a cold. Oh, go and take some antibiotics. And what they've found in studies, like medical studies, is that your body's going to heal anyway. And it's often within the same period of time that the body will heal itself, as the antibiotics does anyway. And often antibiotics are prescribed for viruses, so they're not even useful. So then they go and destroy your gut bacteria, microbiome, and those little hairs that you're talking about, and your immune system's wiped out. So then, going back to what I said, it can take your body or your gut up to a year to repair. It makes so much sense, because you hear of people being put on antibiotics, and then, let's say they've got a skin condition, it clears up, but then what happens a few months later? It's back again. And then they'll take more antibiotics, and then 6 months. It's crazy. And I've had people on the phone with me, because people often contact me about skin conditions like eczema and psoriasis, because that's one of my focal points. And they'll say, I've been on various, I think one person said 6 courses of antibiotics in the last year. I didn't think doctors were allowed to do that. And naturally, his gut is completely destroyed. And it makes so much sense, because, hearing about his challenges, because every time that's done, you're ruining it again. And of course, you're susceptible to all these bugs that are going around in schools if you're a child. Actually, no, your immune system's through the floor. That's the truth. I love the idea of Kambo, because it doesn't come with all these nasty side effects. It doesn't slam your immune system through the floor. It doesn't make you more susceptible to illnesses and disease. It actually has a very powerful effect on the body. Are there any negatives? Are there any side effects to Kambo that people need to be aware of?
So when we do this work, we take everybody through a pre-screening, if you will. Give everybody a set time to call us, or we call them, and we send them some paperwork. And within that paperwork, there's a small plethora of contraindications for Kambo. Things that we would just not be able to help with. Not be able to apply the medicine for, say. The poor souls that have experienced brain hemorrhages or heart attacks, certain types of epilepsy. If you're talking like epilepsy that is still prevalent, it can be worked on by very specialist measures. And one of the measures is making sure that they've not had a seizure in, say, 3 years, and making sure that they're taking something else like CBD, and having every measure in place. If you've had a stroke, a recent surgery, because the blood is moving faster around the body, you don't want any recent surgeries to reopen as a result of that increased blood flow. We check every time. We've got people in the medical industry. We've got naturopaths. We've got, we know people who are far more experienced than us. People that have served thousands more people than ourselves and have seen so much more as well. So we also cross-check and double-check, this foreign condition that we've not heard of or whatever. We'll go and check it, and 9 times out of 10, it's yes. Yes, we can save the Kambo, support that definitely, but there's just this small handful of things that will say maybe you'd be better off using a plant or a supplement or doing a juice for this and that. And that's the other way that we work. Is we want people to have fun and to feel the love and the joy in their life. And so we will recommend other modalities. It's not just myself working for Kambo Dots, it's my business partner, Karen, and then there's other various guest facilitators and other healers that come in, people that know, just an amazing wealth of knowledge. They can always chip in something valuable and say, go and do that, or buy this supplement, so there's always something available for those people.
Okay. That's really good to know. Really good to know. And it's good, good to know that you're kind of screening people, and ultimately it's up to us to kind of really take our own responsibility, isn't it, for our own health? But it's up to us to do the research. And I just think it's good that you got those questions. I think the more we hear about this kind of opportunity, people are starting to understand how many options there really are in outside of Western medication, because, you know, I won't say it again, they cause a lot of harm. So I really like what you're doing here. What would you say is the primary reason for people to come to you? Would you say it's for healing, like physically, or would you say it's more kind of energetically, or would you say it's like a mixture of the two?
Yeah, it's a mixture of everything, Neil. Some people come and they say, "I've heard about this Kambo. I'd like to try it," and they don't hold a specific intention. So they're really open to the intelligence of the medicine and, you know, the highest good that it has to bring them. Some people, they're saying, "I've got this virus. I've got this quote unquote genetic disorder. You know, this or that thing." And you know what happens, you know, all of the time is you'll find it supporting that condition on some level, and it will give you other things, like, you know, like how you experience the mental clarity, the lifting of the veil. Some people who never realised, I mean, I speak for myself as well, is until I did Kambo the first time, I'd been living on this low vibration, this somewhat depression. And I just thought that was my life until I did Kambo, and it was like, hey, hello, Austin, you know?
Hello. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Totally. I've got goosebumps when you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much more that Kambo brings us. Obviously, people work for their specific intention, which is great. Kambo will support that. But don't cut yourself off to the rest of the gifts. You know, you'll get so much more from it.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe I should give a little bit of a story about my experience with it, because I just want the listener to understand that it's, firstly, it's done in a very sacred and respectful container, as we talk about, as is spoken about in the kind of the plant medicine world. And with Kambo, I really liked how you held the whole ceremony at your place. Very, very respectful, in a very sacred environment. Can you speak to that very quickly? Just give it like a minute's worth of background as to how you hold it.
Sure. So, you know, as you said, Neil, it's a ceremonial ritual. I think because, you know, it just has to be. You know, the frog is coming from an indigenous heritage. You know, I'd like to pay reverence to the medicine that is frog, the land that it comes from, and of course there's several archetypes that we can call upon. You know, archetypes that we all inhabit in our DNA. You know, archetypes that have shown up in history, which is just, you know, to compress that, it's just personas or identities that we're all capable of achieving. You know, so such things, purity and deities, and, you know, obviously protective forces, which will, you know, come through us as practitioners and contain the space, as you say. The sessions are led by sacred songs. Some know them as ikaros. We're using instruments, and sometimes we've got musicians as well, medicine musicians, which is just, you know, creating a really nice space. Sometimes we do it with sound healing, like crystal singing bowls and gongs. And then, of course, we're setting up an altar. So on that altar will be items of power significant to us as practitioners. And we also invite our clients, our guests, to bring something else for them, you know, to have that focal point on the altar. You know, and we describe it as being charged up, as, you know, that item in the ceremony. You know, we can take that away from them and perhaps use that as an anchor to go back to their experience. They've got that item that's been charged up in ceremony.
What I really liked about the environment that you held is I felt very, very safe. And I think it's really good for people to know that, because otherwise, you know, if you kind of research this, it's like you're putting frog venom into your veins, and you're like, why on earth would I do that? And it's not a pleasant experience. Actually, it's not so bad. You know, you purge this way, you can purge that way. So I just wanted to say that I felt very safe, and I think it's important for people to know that, because it's not usual. It's not just taking medication. Your body's going through a whole process, and the environment is really key. So I just wanted to say that. So thank you for holding that kind of container safely.
It's my pleasure. I mean, you know, just to tag on to a bit of that, there's so much propaganda There's so many stories about what Kambo isn't. When we do the ceremonies, we like to hold a very light and somewhat humorous atmosphere. Get people, strangers come, and then they make friends with each other. We hold that space for friendship, for love, for healing. And usually those reports, those articles are coming from people who are just perceiving it. They've never tried it, and then when they do try it, their world is rocked. And so you get people come and they say, "I thought I was going to be screaming. I thought I was going to be in hysterics, or I thought this was venom. I thought you were going to cut holes in me." And it's like, it's none of that. It really is none of that. That's some weird propaganda you're reading. And as I say, when they do it, they're in awe of the results. It's a really basic process. And the hardest part of the process is drinking the 2 liters of water.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
There's this misconception that you're going to shit your pants. Everybody's got enough strength and enough power to get themselves to the toilet, and if they haven't, then there's always people on hand to get them there. We don't ever have to deal with that. The propaganda makes me laugh.
Yeah, and I think that's very interesting what you're saying. We can, with anything online, we can find pros and cons for anything. It's like this whole cacophony of misinformation one way or another. Yeah. And there's also good information. So I have found some of the negative information online as well, and it kind of puts the fear in people, and it's almost like that's what it's designed to do. So what I would invite anyone to do, listening or watching this, is to actually speak to people, speak to the likes of me. I've done it a few times, Austin, Karen, his business partner, and really get an understanding about it and feel into it. Don't just read stuff online, because it's some of the stuff online is just pathetic. And you look at who's behind these websites and you're like, now I get it. This stuff helps the body to heal. Anything that I do consider this a true medicine, because it helps the body to heal. You're not just masking symptoms. And, you're giving your body a whole cleanse, like a detox. And that's really special. And it's done so in an environment which is safe. As you say, it's fun. You meet great people. You have conscious, high-level conversations with people. I really loved it, and I'll be doing it again with you.
Yeah, thank you.
If that's okay.
No. Love to have you.
On our next interview, because I wanted to keep this to about 30 minutes, I'd love to explore more about what you told me about that patient with ME when you were out of this country and it was combined with other plant medicines, because the other plant medicines are so incredibly powerful, as well as this one. And I can't wait for more people to experience this stuff, because the body's incredibly powerful. And like you said, the body loves itself. It's constantly trying to heal. It's always wanting to be in a state of balance. We just need to kind of feed it the good stuff, take away the bad stuff, give it the good stuff. And I think this is the good stuff. So, Austin, is there anything else you'd like to add for now on the information?
I'd just like to wrap it up. If you've received the calling for Kambo, wherever you are in the world, in the UK, don't doubt that calling. Just look into what that medicine means for you, and perhaps go to the session. As we said about the propaganda, that can often be a way that feeds our fear and stops us from doing the thing which is really the best for us. So don't deny your highest truth of the calling to witness or experience this medicine.
Love that. And where can viewers or listeners find you?
So they can head over to my Facebook page, which is Kambo Dots. That's KAMBO DOTS. Got a website under construction that should be up and going in the next month or so. I'm based in the UK. I live in Hertfordshire, serve from my home in St Albans. I travel all over the UK doing one-to-ones and regular group sessions with the Kambo. But you'll see all that on the Facebook page as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Austin. And I do always ask my interviewee their number one vitality secret. What's your number one vitality secret?
Amongst Kambo, celery juice.
Brilliant. I was hoping you'd say Kambo, but that's perfect. Celery juice, brilliant. Medical
Kambo every day.
Yeah, you talked about medical medium, and yeah, I'll second that. I love that guy. This guy you can't argue with spirit. However inclined you are to believe spirit is there, there's a whole other realm that's there. And he channels this stuff. He's featured in the Heal documentary, phenomenal documentary. And yeah, celery juicing is just one of these incredible magical mechanisms to cleanse in every way, shape, and form. So thank you, Austin, again. And it's been a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to doing it again with you, to sitting with you again, and to having you on the podcast again to talk more about plant medicine. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Vitality Secret podcast. If you like this, please leave a 5-star rating. And if you loved it, please take a few minutes to leave a review. The more ratings and reviews that are left, the easier it is for this life-changing information to get into the hands of people who need it. Don't forget to join my free 7-day program and ignite your inner healer at vitalitysecret.com.